The greatest enemy to your destiny is not your lack of talent, not your lack of opportunity, and not even the people who rise against you. The greatest enemy to your destiny is the comfort of your own excuses. Excuses are the chains that tie you to yesterday. They sound logical, they feel safe, but they rob you of tomorrow. Every dream you carry will demand a version of you that does not yet exist. And to become that version, you must learn the discipline of forcing yourself to do what your feelings resist. Discipline is not the absence of fear. Discipline is the mastery of action in spite of it. You cannot wait for inspiration, you cannot wait for the perfect moment, you cannot wait until you feel like moving. If you wait for feelings, you will be waiting forever. Progress belongs to those who step forward even when the weight of procrastination is pressing them down. Excuses are the most subtle and dangerous enemy to human progress. They do not come in the form of visible chains or physical barriers, yet they hold more power than walls or locked doors. Excuses sound logical, they disguise themselves in reason, they present themselves as safety, and they whisper to you that waiting is wisdom. But in reality, excuses are nothing more than silent thieves. They steal time, they steal opportunities, they steal the small steps that accumulate into great achievements. When a person allows excuses to rule their thinking, they surrender their future before they even attempt to reach it. Excuses are the chains that keep you tied to yesterday, and as long as you hold onto them, you cannot walk into the tomorrow you are meant to experience. Think of how many people have dreams they talk about but never begin. They will tell you they do not have enough money, they do not have enough time, they are too old, or they are too young. These excuses may feel justified, but they are only anchors that keep them in the same place year after year. The dream is never the problem. The problem is always the refusal to move beyond the comfort of excuses. You may convince yourself that your circumstances are unique, but the truth is, someone with fewer resources, fewer opportunities, and greater struggles than you has already done what you are delaying. The difference is not ability, it is the decision to break free from excuses and act. Excuses are comfortable because they protect you from responsibility. If you blame the economy, you do not have to confront your laziness. If you blame your upbringing, you do not have to confront your fear. If you blame your lack of education, you do not have to confront your lack of persistence. Excuses give you a soft bed to lie in while your destiny remains untouched. They keep you busy explaining why you cannot, instead of proving that you can. They tie you to the past by convincing you that tomorrow will be just like yesterday, and as long as you believe that, you will never attempt something new. When you make excuses, you forfeit power. You give control of your future to circumstances and people outside of you. But when you refuse excuses, you reclaim authority over your own destiny. It is not about waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect resources. It is about recognizing that progress begins when excuses end. If you cut the chains of excuses, you open the door to possibility. If you silence the voice that tells you, not yet, you create space for the courage to say, now. Every breakthrough in history was born in the heart of someone who refused to let excuses keep them tied down. They saw the same obstacles as everyone else, but instead of saying, I can't because, they said, I will even if. Discipline is not something that waits for a feeling to arrive, nor is it the product of a sudden burst of motivation. Discipline is the consistent choice to act, regardless of how uninspired, unprepared, or unwilling you may feel in the moment. Waiting for motivation is like waiting for the wind to move a ship that has not raised its sails. Discipline raises the sails even when the sea is calm, and because of that, it guarantees movement. Those who wait for feelings will always find reasons to delay. Feelings change with the weather, they shift with mood, they respond to pressure, and they disappear in the presence of resistance. But discipline is steady, immovable, and unyielding to the shifting climate of emotions. It is the bridge between intention and achievement, the force that transforms desire into accomplishment. Discipline requires you to act when it is easier to remain still. It demands that you rise when your body wants to stay in bed, that you read when your mind wants to wander, that you train when your muscles beg for rest. Discipline does not ask for permission from feelings, it commands them. It refuses to let temporary discomfort dictate permanent outcomes. Every person who has ever risen to greatness did so not because they always felt ready but because they mastered the art of acting beyond how they felt. They understood that motivation is unreliable, but discipline is dependable. Motivation may start the race, but only discipline will finish it. Many people underestimate the power of small, disciplined actions. They imagine that success comes from sudden leaps or rare bursts of inspiration, but true success is built daily, in the quiet decisions no one applauds. The writer who disciplines themselves to write a few pages every morning, the student who disciplines themselves to study each night, the athlete who disciplines themselves to train while others rest, these are the ones who discover the fruit of consistency. Discipline may feel ordinary in the moment, but over time, it produces extraordinary results. Discipline is not natural, it is developed. You are not born disciplined, you become disciplined through choice and repetition. At first, it feels uncomfortable, but over time, discipline reshapes your habits, and your habits reshape your life. The body that once resisted waking early begins to adapt to a new rhythm. The mind that once resisted focus begins to embrace the clarity of structure. Discipline transforms resistance into readiness. It is like a muscle, the more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. Every person has two voices speaking within, one that says, rest, wait, stop, and another that says, push, act, move. Discipline is the power to silence the weaker voice and obey the stronger one. It is the recognition that your feelings are not the rulers of your destiny, they are only servants. And servants must be commanded. When you choose discipline, you choose mastery over yourself, and mastery over yourself is the first step toward mastery over your future. Greatness does not reveal itself in moments of ease but in moments of struggle. The truth is that growth and transformation are always born in resistance. Just as muscles strengthen only when they are pushed beyond their comfort, the human spirit rises only when it encounters challenge. The person who avoids resistance avoids growth, and the person who embraces it discovers hidden capacity. Resistance is not a sign of weakness, it is an invitation to strength. Every obstacle, every delay, every setback is an opportunity to step into a version of yourself you have not yet met. Greatness begins at the point of resistance because it is there that you are forced to go beyond what is familiar and stretch into what is possible. When life becomes difficult, the natural tendency is to retreat, to step back, to preserve energy and protect comfort. Yet comfort has never produced champions. Comfort builds mediocrity, while resistance builds greatness. The athlete who keeps running when their lungs burn, the student who keeps studying when their mind is tired, the leader who keeps working when resources are scarce, these are the people who learn that resistance is not their enemy but their ally. Resistance sharpens focus, builds endurance, and reveals how much potential was hidden within. Without resistance, there is no demand for perseverance, and without perseverance, there is no achievement worth celebrating. Resistance exposes what lies beneath the surface. Anyone can perform when conditions are easy, but the true measure of a person is what they do when conditions are hard. When doors close, when strength feels insufficient, when encouragement is absent, the decision to press forward becomes the dividing line between those who dream and those who achieve. Resistance creates pressure, and pressure reveals character. Diamonds are formed in pressure, not in comfort. In the same way, your destiny will not be shaped in moments where everything feels easy but in the seasons where resistance pushes you to fight for what you claim to believe. Greatness begins where excuses end and endurance begins. Resistance will whisper that it is time to stop, that you have done enough, that you cannot go further. Yet that very moment is the birthplace of growth. Each step you take against resistance stretches your capacity, each act of persistence expands your ability, and each decision to push forward builds the foundation of greatness. Resistance is not the sign to quit, it is the signal that you are standing at the threshold of something greater. When resistance appears, it is proof that progress is near. The more valuable the goal, the stronger the resistance that guards it. This is why many give up before they reach the place of breakthrough, because the resistance grows heavier just before the reward. But those who endure, those who push through the weight, discover that greatness is not found on the path of least resistance but at the end of the struggle that others were unwilling to face. History is not written by people who had good intentions but never acted. The world does not remember the long list of excuses, the private resolutions, or the silent promises that were never fulfilled. It remembers those who stepped out, those who did something, those who turned ideas into reality. Intention has never changed the world, only action has. You can have the best vision, the most powerful dream, and the deepest desire, but if you never move, if you never act, if you never put your hand to the work, you will remain invisible to history. The difference between those who are remembered and those who are forgotten is not what they planned but what they executed. There are countless people who wanted to write books that were never written, songs that were never sung, inventions that were never created, and businesses that were never built. They lived with intention but died without impact. Their ideas never crossed the bridge of action, and so they left no trace. On the other hand, every advancement, every breakthrough, every legacy we celebrate today exists because someone refused to stop at intention. They decided that talking about it was not enough, dreaming about it was not enough, and waiting for the perfect moment was not enough. They acted, and their action is what earned them a place in history. Action does not require perfection. Many fear moving forward because they are afraid to fail, afraid to be criticized, afraid to make mistakes. Yet history does not demand that you start flawlessly, only that you start. The world honors those who attempt, those who try, those who step into uncertainty with courage. Mistakes can be corrected, failures can be learned from, but inaction leaves nothing to build upon. To wait for the perfect conditions is to wait forever, because perfection does not exist on this side of life. The courageous are not those who wait until everything is certain but those who act even when uncertainty surrounds them. Every great story has a moment of decision, a point where someone chose to act when others hesitated. They did not know how everything would unfold, but they moved anyway. That choice is what separated them from the crowd. History is filled with examples of ordinary people who became extraordinary simply because they refused to let intention remain idle. They acted, and in acting, they inspired. They persevered, and in persevering, they left a mark. When you study the lives of those remembered, you will not find perfection, but you will always find action. They were people who pressed forward despite limitations. They may not have had the resources, the education, or the connections, but they had the will to act, and that will carry them further than intention ever could. Action has a voice, and it speaks long after you are gone. It tells the world that you lived with purpose, that you moved beyond excuses, that you turned thought into reality. Your destiny is not calling the version of you that you are right now, it is calling the version of you that is still being formed. The future you dream of will always demand more than your present self can give. This is why growth is not optional, it is required. To reach the place you are meant to be, you must evolve, transform, and develop into someone greater than who you are today. Destiny is a place of responsibility, influence, and impact, and the current version of you does not yet have the capacity to carry it. Life will stretch you, test you, and challenge you until you grow into the person who is capable of walking into the fullness of that destiny. Every great calling requires preparation. The version of you that is comfortable, untested, and unchallenged is not the version that can handle greatness. The dream you carry will require a stronger mind, a more disciplined body, a wiser spirit, and a deeper level of perseverance. Too many people want their destiny without transformation. They want the crown without the weight of character, the position without the price of growth. But destiny does not compromise. It will only open its doors to those who have matured into the individuals capable of handling its demands. This is why the process of life takes you through difficulties, trials, and seasons of stretching, because each of those experiences is shaping you into the person your future requires. When you resist growth, you resist destiny. You cannot cling to old habits and expect to step into new opportunities. You cannot hold on to the same level of thinking and expect to rise to higher places of influence. Destiny demands that you leave behind immaturity, excuses, and comfort so that you can embrace responsibility, vision, and discipline. The you that exists today may be good enough to survive, but destiny does not ask for survival, it asks for significance. And significance requires change. The struggles you face now are not punishment, they are preparation. Every challenge is developing in you the qualities that your future will require. Patience, strength, faith, endurance, wisdom, these are not given to you in theory, they are formed in the fire of experience. You may feel like life is pushing you beyond what you can handle, but it is only stretching you to expand your capacity. The more you are stretched, the more room you create for the destiny you are meant to carry. Without that stretching, you would remain too small to handle the weight of your future. Destiny demands growth because destiny is bigger than you. It is bigger than your comfort zone, bigger than your present knowledge, bigger than your current abilities. If you remain as you are, you will disqualify yourself from what you are meant to become. But if you embrace the process of growth, if you are willing to be stretched, if you are willing to become the version of yourself that destiny requires, nothing can stop you from walking into the future that was always waiting for you. The pain of discipline is a burden that feels heavy in the moment, but it is far lighter than the pain of regret. Discipline demands sacrifice. It requires you to do what others refuse to do, to rise when others are sleeping, to practice when others are resting, to remain focused when distractions are calling. It never feels easy, it never feels convenient, and it rarely feels enjoyable in the present. Yet every act of discipline is an investment, and investments always bring returns. What feels like loss today will reveal itself as gain tomorrow. The hours spent in practice, the time spent in study, the effort spent in consistency, all of it accumulates into freedom, opportunity, and success. Discipline builds structure, and structure creates space for freedom. The person who disciplines themselves with money experiences the freedom of financial security. The person who disciplines themselves in learning experiences the freedom of knowledge and wisdom. The person who disciplines themselves in health experiences the freedom of energy and strength. What appears to be restriction in the present always reveals itself as freedom in the future. Discipline seems like a prison, but it is actually the key to unlocking doors that laziness will always keep closed. The pain of discipline is temporary. Waking up early, working late, saying no to temptations, focusing when it is easier to drift, these choices sting for a moment, but they build a life of stability. On the other hand, the pain of neglect lasts a lifetime. The person who refuses discipline may enjoy comfort for a season, but eventually, they are bound by regret. Regret is the fruit of wasted opportunities, the harvest of neglected moments, the weight of unrealized potential. It whispers endlessly of what could have been, what should have been, and what was lost because discipline was rejected. The price of discipline is always less than the price of regret. The great truth is that discipline compounds. A single act of discipline may seem small, but repeated daily, it multiplies into transformation. Reading a page a day becomes volumes of wisdom. Saving a little consistently becomes wealth. Training a few minutes each morning becomes strength and endurance. Discipline works in silence, and over time, it makes you unrecognizable to the person you once were. Others may look at the outcome and call it talent, luck, or blessing, but what they fail to see is that behind every visible success was invisible discipline practiced day after day. The future is already being shaped by your present decisions. If you choose discipline, you are choosing freedom for your tomorrow. If you reject discipline, you are choosing regret for your tomorrow. Every moment of resistance, every time you force yourself to act when it would be easier to stop, you are building a future where doors will open, opportunities will appear, and the rewards of consistency will be yours to enjoy. Discipline may hurt now, but it will heal later, and the scars it leaves are the marks of a destiny fulfilled.